Folks, welcome back once again to a special report by WKNI TV 25. I'm Eddie Lewis. We have had some very, and I have to use this, colorful conversation, and I say that with light, but it's what we're here about is getting the truth out. And as I was telling these two gentlemen here while we were off camera taking a break, that there's three things we need to get out, and that's their side, the other side, and then the truth. Because as you hear all the time, there's always two sides to a story, but that's not the case. There's actually three.
Yes.
Because it's going to be your opinion, their opinion, what the eyewitness saw. And, you know, let's talk about eyewitnesses for a second. That is one of the weakest witnesses to have in a court case, according to lawyers and judges and juries. Because each one has, you know, it's been proven in courts that an eyewitness sees things differently than another eyewitness, and so
why they use them for convictions?
I'm sorry, but I'm saying they do that. But I'm just saying, but it's the most unreliable source. They usually come up with hard, what's the word I'm looking for? Evidence to you know, like physical evidence. You know, that there was, you know, the gunshot wound. There was, you know, the officer beating in the face. There was, you know, fingerprints on the officer's gun from this young man.
I think that they say it's weak when it don't go their way.
Okay, well, that's an opinion, but let's go ahead.
They use all the eyewitnesses that seem to agree with their conviction rate.
Right.
Well, let me give
Go
you
ahead.
Let me give you a journalist viewpoint that's from the right conservative side. We have a Democratic district attorney that, for whatever reason, has purposely chosen to suppress the voice of two primary witnesses. And where I'm from, that's unacceptable as a citizen, and as a journalist, that's unacceptable. I'm not second guessing the shooting. We can play Monday morning quarterback. I'm not a law enforcement person, don't have a badge, so I really just have an opinion, take it or leave it. But what really bothers me is we have a Democratic district attorney that has purposefully chosen to not hear this testimony of these witnesses, and he had knowledge of them by a sworn police officer. That's unacceptable.
All right. Now, Kenny, this is not the same district attorney that had the issue with Ronnie Gilly in Country Crossings too, right? I mean, we're shaking the tree back a little bit, aren't we?
Well, you know, my thing is I'm a Democrat. and to hear him say Democrat kind of just, it flinches me every time he say that. Because my problems has been with conservative Republicans, unlike himself. But, you know, and they... there is a system that is in place that is not fair. And you asked the question before we left, what do I mostly want? It's fairness and equality. What we want is accountability and transparency. That's all. That is all. I'm not a lawyer. The lawyers got to deal with the court case and this and that and the other. I'm an advocate. I'm a preacher. And this is ministry. And we have a system in place that there's too many disparities. There's no accountability and transparency. You investigate one situation compared to another situation at will, depending on how you feel, and that's not acceptable in the real world. What we need is policy and procedures in place to where officers are trained so our mental health patients, and we have 5 mental health institutions that are closing. Thank God. Governor Bentley just said, no, we're going to drop it down to 2 because I am concerned at what our law enforcement, how they treat our mental health
That
patients.
was my next question.
Okay?
So
you know why he said that?
Governor said because of this case.
People like us come into this case.
That's right.
And Eddie, I'll tell you something else, okay? When people like you, and I don't, if it's through Ricky Stokes News or whoever, selectively have access to view crime scene photos and know facts about a case that are on a police report that is denied to the family and the advocate and the lawyer by a matter of law, you got trouble.
And that's not accountability.
And you got trouble from Democratic black preachers, and you got trouble from cowboy boot wearing Republicans like me, and you're not going to do that.
That raises bees and cows.
That's, well, yeah.
And it raises
Arguably not very well, or can I write very well?
We're going to find out about your
but
bee.
I will say this: this Democratic district attorney is going to be held accountable We are going to look at all of his cases like this. We are very interested in how much money he spends. He starts sentencing people of color to life in prison for just marijuana charges. It may be time for a change.
Well, we got to look at.
And Governor Bentley, you've got to give him
totality of it.
credit for addressing the issues of
Yes,
mental
he did.
health. We can't afford to keep those
Yes, he did.
facilities open, to tell you the truth. But we have a moral obligation to, and we have a moral obligation to hold these people involved in this case accountable. Period.
And that's all we want.
Well, I
Mr.
want to
Lee.
make sure before we go any further, because it's been mentioned, I think, at least 3 times so far. And I will say that Ricky Stokes is a personal friend of mine. Okay, I do admire the way he has been able
I
to.
loved him till he called me a racist.
Well, let me do my disclaimer here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I do have the utmost respect for Mr. Stokes. All right, we do talk. We do have conversations. I think I've talked to him in the past year once. Okay.
Did he share the crime scene photos with you?
Under journalistic approval of the rights that we have, okay, as journalists, I'm not answering that question because either way I answer it,
That's okay.
it's
That's a
wrong.
fair question.
Okay,
Because
and as it was said off camera, that I'll probably be pulled into court, and that's fine because I'll tell the truth in front of a judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'll tell
Well,
the
protect
truth
your
in front of my
sources.
audience.
Hey.
But there's no reason for me to be involved in an incitement, okay, of an issue. All right, I'm reporting the issue. I'm playing the devil's advocate. I'm giving everybody an opportunity to communicate. Now, on the flip side of this, I will make my phone calls. I want to Doug Velasca, okay? I'll make my phone calls to the Headland Police Chief. I'll make my phone calls to everybody, including the witnesses, and see if they want to do an interview like this and talk about the situation.
Now let me say this.
okay.
Let me say this. One word you used was incitement.
Yes, because that's what it is.
The reason I came on board and what TOP's goal is in ministry is to put out fires. We build cohesion between law enforcement and communities. We usually dispel incitement.
Well-
What happened here was exactly the opposite on the administration's part, and they need to be held accountable. And that is what's happening now. The family is not satisfied with the way they're treating this case. We could go back and we could all talk about different cases we know right there in the same vicinity where people had guns, knives, mental health patients that did not get shot and killed in the street like Old Patrick Humphrey. If we wanted to bring up incitement.
Eddie, incite's not the right word. I would urge you to think about, we have a good, hard-working Christian woman whose son was shot to death in front of her. Maybe partially justified, may not be. I can't second guess that. He was shot to death. He was left unattended. The authorities in this case, the Police Department of Headland and the District Attorney and the 20th Judicial Circuit, have violated state law, and there's some serious questions when you conduct investigations with just totally leaving out primary witnesses. That's unacceptable. And all people of faith in this community
Listen,
that go to the church on Sunday and Bible study on Wednesday night, you need to be asking what would happen if your son was shot to death in front of your eyes and you prevented from going to him and he bled to death. All you could do is pray. And you're telling me
and probably
all
say
these
whatever
people are
they
going to
want
line
you
up
to
against
say so they
you?
can let you get to your child that you know has a mental health
That's not
condition.
incitement. That's disgusting.
And that's
We
what
should be
have.
ashamed of this.
It's nothing to.
But a lot of
really-
people are looking at this as incitement.
And
Why?
the money that Doug Valeska is spending on
Why?
billboards, please, Mr. Valeska,
But
invest
my
that
question is,
in
why are they looking at it as
investigations.
incitement
Can I ask you a
instead of
question?
looking at a human life that was taken
Ask
and
him.
accountability and transparency?
Ask him, because
I
the
would love
viewers
to
of
ask
this
him.
audience
I would love to
will
ask
sit there and say, all you are doing is inciting, okay, to have a, first off, and I love you, okay, I got to
Go ahead.
clarify that, but just the name Sharpton alone, okay, reeks with involvement.
Okay, let me say this so I can have my disclaimer. That's not my fault. I didn't choose my family. But let me say this. We have to look at, even though people don't like Sharpton, Sharpton addresses issues the same reason we're talking about now. He addresses issues that don't nobody want to address. They see the big elephant in the room. Everybody walks around it like he's not there. And it's called fairness and equality. Jesus, the Christ, did the same thing, and they called him what? Inciting. You know, how come every time somebody has an epiphany from God and do ministry in its totality as Jesus did, all of a sudden they are claimed to be given a reputation as inciting instead of doing ministry and looking at human life? That was a human life. It's old Patrick Humphrey's life meaning nothing compared to accountability and transparency. What we want, you ask what we want is prevention and intervention so that this don't happen to no other mental health patient in the state of Alabama, whether they're white, black, purple, polka dot. And we want our law enforcement officers who taxpayers pay, who are supposed to be protecting and serving us, to have proper training and accountability and transparency so that they are helping to preserve lives instead of taking them when it's unnecessary.
Eddie, what are the facts?
That's what we want.
Why are they suppressing the witnesses? And what do we do about it? That's it. There's no incitement here. What are the facts? If they have nothing to hide, why have they chosen the path they are on? That has to be answered, and it will be. Either amongst themselves, they'll go home, have a come to Jesus talk with their wives, they'll pray and do the right thing, or I can tell you what, there are people in this community that will make them do the right thing.
Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for coming on WKNI. And again, the truth is all that matters.
That's right.
And that's what I want to make
Amen.
sure you understand. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
All right. I like to just separate opinion from fact, okay, and truth from a lie. Because those are very important, especially in a situation like this. And when we have, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm not playing a devil's advocate now, but when we have political innuendo involved, it becomes a different issue than it does when it becomes a God issue with truth. Because we have a tendency to lay it more on politics than we do about God's work. And you and me,
or his people.
Well, that's our work. That's our work.
Dead, and
that's our work.
Be.
See, we're supposed to be loving our brother.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And you know, no matter what, we're supposed to love our brother. We're supposed to forgive our brother.
That's right.
7 times 70. Okay. I don't want to go into the parable where Jesus told the disciples that the Lord over a servant forgave a debt. And then that servant turned around, okay, after pleading with his Lord and saying, please, forgive me, I don't have it. He was going to throw him in debtor's prison.
Right.
And then this other man owed this particular debtor.
That's right.
Okay. And we know where that went to. And see, that's what happens here a lot. Okay. Whether it's in politics, whether it's in law enforcement. Okay. Think of the analogy that just was said. Okay. We have a tendency to accept the blessing from someone else, but we refuse to give it ourselves to someone else. And that's what I'm saying. That's what
good
I'm
wisdom.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good wisdom.
And gentlemen, I appreciate y'all coming on. We're going to follow up on this, like
Thanks
I
for
said.
asking
And John, I wasn't picking on you. I love you. I think the world. Today's the first time we met.
That's the job of us.
And we need to report the truth, and that's where we're at. And I'm not questioning your truthability. I'm just saying that you've done the best that you could out there with what you had, and Kenny, you're doing the best with what you had, and that I respect. And I'm going to say it, Ricky Stokes does the best with what he has.
And we do this all over the country. I'm glad you brought that out.
Right. I would just urge you.
This is something that we do and been doing all over the world. And people are going to attack you, but they attack Jesus.
Well, Jesus told us that. Look what happened to
the
Paul,
prophet
for crying out loud.
in his own home.
Hey.
I could go anywhere else in the world and they roll out the red carpet, but here at home, and I want to say this pertaining to Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, one of the things that I love.
One day I'll get to meet him.
Conservative, you meet him. that this conservative young man here says is that I don't like you, bro. I don't agree with his ideology, but you can't take away the work. And I'm going to quote the same thing Jesus said. If you don't believe in me, just believe in the works I've done. Fairness, equality, accountability, transparency. That's all we asking for.
Well, I'm not a minister, but I would urge all of your listeners, don't take my word. I've just offered an opinion based on what I was told and the little research I did. I'm not, I'm no professional journalist. But I will tell you that they should watch the videos and let these people speak, because the DA has prevented them from telling their story.
Well,
and I can prove that.
I can tell you that the video appeared to be unedited when I watched it on the website. I want to encourage all our viewers to go to, I'm going to say www.
TexasVilleReporter.com.
TexasVilleReporter.com. I just can't get over Texas being in the state of Alabama.
Yep. We're 27
we got
people
Cuba,
strong.
Alabama. Okay.
27 people strong.
Wow.
Well, they're 26 right now because I'm here.
You're here. Okay. Well, there you go. But
And we're downtown.
and tell your mom that I've never met her, but I admire her for being in the journalistic world and taking the courage, because in journalism, even some of us are trained, some of us aren't. I'm not trained, and I admit that here all the time. But if we try to stay to the truth, mainstream media, I'll tell it right here, is not in truth, and they're in ratings, and as long as they get a good rating, that's where they're going to go. Sanford, Florida, that's a good rating. Why? Because there's how many people watch TV down there? Okay, there's millions of people in that just little area versus coming to Headland, Alabama, okay, or in your case, Texasville, all right, and having just a few viewers. They are not going to get the scope of the market in weight of viewership by doing so. And that's why the media has not been here. Okay?
Well, that may change.
Well, I encourage you, because you need to have the people that can sway public opinion, okay, here to do this. If your case is true, if what you're saying is true, it's an abomination, okay? It is not, okay, an injustice. It's a total abomination of our system, okay? Because here you have, all right, a young man dead that was a mental patient. He was a man of color. He was shot down in front of his mother. He was denied the simple basic rights. This is your story, okay? If that's the truth, then the whole world needs to know.
That's right.
Watch the video. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the people who were there.
That's right.
Don't listen to the police. Listen to them.
Folks, I want to thank you for bearing with us through these segments. As you know, here at WKNI, those that know us and those that watch us here locally know that we strive for the truth. Today, we have two gentlemen that came into the studio wanting to share their version of what they have seen and what they've heard, and that's exactly the way they explained it. WKNI TV 25 bears no side as far as who's right and who's wrong in this. We still stand behind our law enforcement and our government, and we're not going to be politicized in any of this. And I do want to say thank you to them for having the courage to come forward, because once this gets out like this, you become targets in many different ways. Y'all know that. Y'all seen us over the 9 years we've been here. So thanks for tuning in to WKNI TV 25. We hope God blesses you through this message today. And please, do as they say. Go to the website, look at the video, read the story, form your own opinion from the information you have. If you have the time and you're able to, go to Headland. Call the police chief. Call Doug Velasca. Ask him why they're not talking to people. That might help get the truth out. God bless you once again. This is Eddie Lewis reporting for WKNI TV 25.
When will